Food tracking. Is it helpful or harmful? Personal trainers and weight loss specialists love food tracking. Knowing what you're eating and how much of you're eating can be helpful for sure. However, what if it was doing more harm than good? What if it was setting you up for short-term success but long-term failure? What if it's leading you down the path of disordered eating that could require years of therapy to work through? As a health coach over the past 10 years and a former chronic dieter and over-exerciser before that, I have pretty strong opinions on the role of food tracking. I'm not completely against it, but I do believe it's a health tool that is often used incorrectly and is doing more harm than good. When you understand all the facets of weight loss and weight gain, if that's what's needed, and what it takes to not only reach a healthy weight, but maintain it once you get there, I think you'll see where I'm coming from and hopefully come over to my side of thinking. Welcome to the Therapeutic Food Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Marian Mitchell. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, therapeutic diet expert, and founder of The Road to Living Whole. There are many different diets out there. It's hard to know which one is right for you with your chronic illness and autoimmune disease. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you the foundational pieces every single therapeutic diet out there shares, and also how to use the best one for your particular diagnosis. If you've been looking for a meal planning partner, help navigating the complicated healthcare system, and want to feel better quickly, I'm your girl. Grab your kombucha and notebook. Let's dive in. I'm a recovering former chronic dieter, as I said. In my teens and early 20s, all I wanted was to be thin. I tracked all of my calories, over-exercised, and it was only a good day if I had enough willpower to eat the insanely low amount of calories I was told to eat to lose the weight. I would be really good about tracking everything for a while, and then eventually I'd stop tracking because I just wanted to live life without worry. And then I would gain weight, and then I would start tracking again, and it was just this vicious cycle. It was miserable. I hated my body. I had an unhealthy relationship with food, even with meeting the way too low of calories to build and maintain muscle. If I didn't lose the weight that my trainer thought I should, I would get talked to about my diet, and we would work together to find ways to make sure I would eat even less, even though I was already starving. When I realized that this was an awful way to live, I then started my quest for just how to be healthy. All of that being said, I don't think that food tracking is evil or unnecessary. As with everything, it has its place when used correctly. Before I talk about how I use it in my coaching practice, I want to share a few reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of calorie counting. Number one, food tracking is not an exact science for 99% of us. Most of us underestimate how much we eat and overestimate how much physical activity we do in a day. Unless you are weighing on a food scale literally everything you're consuming, food tracking is really just a guesstimate. That isn't necessarily a bad thing if you're looking at it through the right lens, but so often that just isn't the case. I had a trainer tell me that they knew that whatever their clients would bring them, that their client was probably eating anywhere from 300 to 600 calories more than what was on the food log. If that tells you how inaccurate food tracking really is, right? Most trackers do not track nutrient intake, and people think they are eating healthy because what they're eating fits in a certain number, but in reality, they are consuming very little nutrients and it's harming their health. I know this because I see the food journals. People think that slim bars, sugar-free drinks, and whole wheat pasta with very few fruits, vegetables, or healthy fats is a healthy way of eating because they're getting their 1,400, 1,500, whatever calories per day. So yeah, they're keeping their calories low, but they're literally starving their bodies of any fuel that it needs to run effectively and keep them healthy. The third reason is it's easy to become obsessed and tie your value or self-worth to that number that comes up at the end of the day. The very first personal trainer I hired told me that for my height, to lose the weight I wanted to lose, I could only consume 1,200 calories per day, and I needed to work out an hour a day, 4 to 5 days a week. You guys, I was starving 24/7. I would nibble on my meals and draw them out to keep the ache of hunger at bay. And I felt like I was sabotaging my weight loss anytime that I would give in and eat a full meal. And I'd be so angry at myself for my lack of willpower. Did I lose weight? For sure. But when that trainer moved on and I hired a new one who sat down with me, put in my physical activity level, put in my weight, put in my body fat that was calculated through a correct method, a more accurate method. There's a bunch of different ways to do this, right? He sat down with me and was like, you should be eating between 1,700 and 1,900 calories per day to be able to maintain your muscle mass and not harm my thyroid. When I took the leap and I trusted him, I lost more weight, I gained more muscle, and I wasn't hating life every day, and I wasn't hating myself every day because it was really easy to do. Like, that was a manageable amount of calories that I could consume in a day. That being said, with the tracking and the self-value and, your mood being tied to this, it can easily lead to disordered eating. I cannot tell you how many people I've met with in consults or I've worked with who are absolutely terrified of food. They're terrified of eating the wrong things, even if it's healthy. They're terrified it's going to hurt them in some way or hurt their health goals in some way. And sometimes it's so severe that I have to recommend that they hire a therapist who specializes in eating disorders because that's beyond my skill set, and they need real psychological help to get through this. All because they became so obsessed with health and tracking and all of that. They just had this insanely unhealthy relationship with food. And it started with food tracking. It's heartbreaking and it happens way too often. I think it's because people don't understand all the facets that go into weight loss. The quantity of calories being consumed doesn't matter as much as the quality of calories being consumed. And the reality is, calories don't play nearly as big of a role as your stress level, quality of sleep, amount of hours of sleep, your hormone health, your relationships, the inflammation that's going on in your body, or the role daily movement plays. Calories are not a magic weight loss or even weight gain bullet. I mean, it would be nice if it was that simple, but it just isn't. Now, I'm not going to dive too deep into this because I went in depth in this in episode 13. So if you want to know more about what goes into weight loss, I recommend listening to episode 13 at the end of this episode. Calories and what we eat do play a role in our health, obviously. So let's talk about when food tracking can actually be helpful. Okay, here's how I use it personally and how I guide my clients to use it. Number one, to check our starting point. What are you eating honestly right now? Where are there some major deficiencies that need to be addressed in either the macro ratio or in the micronutrients? Okay, so we use it as a checkpoint. We're honestly just writing down everything that we eat and really just seeing it for what it is. We're not judging or anything. We're just like, this is our starting point, okay? There's no judgment when it comes to food. Food's not a religion. It's not a base of our value. It's just what we're eating. It's information, okay? And then if you are gaining weight or losing weight too much too fast and you're eating what you think is healthy, it's a great way to check in. Last year, when my adrenals crashed, I started gaining about a pound a week. And, I was exercising the same. I thought I was eating the same and all this stuff. And I was like, what is going on? So one of the things I did was log my food for a few days just to kind of see what I was doing. And when I saw that I was eating in the same range I have been for years, I'm exercising the same, I knew that I needed to get further testing because it wasn't food related. It was beyond that. So I got the testing done, found out what was going on, and was able to address the root cause of that, right? So it's a great check-in tool because sometimes we are eating incorrectly. We are indulging a little bit too much and don't realize it, right? And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's just a check-in tool. Again, it's just information, right? And then a third way that I like to use it is as you're changing your diet, it's a guiding tool. Am I getting at least 100 grams of protein per day? Am I getting a significant amount of calorie or a significant amount of nutrients from my food? Am I overeating carbs and not realizing it? Am I drinking? Is my alcohol consumption impacting it more than I think? Am I getting enough calories? When we change the way that we eat, we can actually tend to undereat out of habit. Again, that like diet mentality, right? And so I like to make sure that my clients are actually eating enough because it's really easy to undereat, especially when you're switching to more real food versus processed food, and you just get full faster. So I like to make sure we're getting enough at that point. Typically, I will only ask my clients to track and play around with it for 5 days, maybe at the most, 3 to 5. Now, if they're really struggling with it, sometimes maybe 2 weeks, again, just to kind of play around and self-experiment with what they're doing to make sure that they're getting what they need, right? That's it. I will never use food tracking for weight loss. And this causes a lot of fear, especially with the chronic dieters or the people who really want to be healthy, right? If I don't know what's coming in, how will I lose weight? My trainer told me it's the only way I'm going to lose weight. I have to hit certain macros or the scale will never move, etc. I get it. I've been there. I've been in your shoes, right? I cannot express how freeing it was to focus on health over weight loss. I did lose weight, and I was able to maintain it for years. I'm currently back in the weight loss journey after my adrenals crashed last year. And I'm not tracking everything that comes into my mouth because I know how to eat. I'm also making sure I'm moving my body throughout the day. I'm making sleep a priority. I'm making sure my nervous system stays out of fight or flight mode. I'm making sure I'm not consuming a bunch of junk and making sure I limit my alcohol so that I'm not consuming these empty calories on any sort of regular basis, right? Food tracking can absolutely be beneficial when it's used correctly, and it's detrimental mostly to your mental health when it's used incorrectly. The nutrients you bring in are so much more important than the calories that come in. And when you eat the correct balance of macronutrients while ensuring you're getting your micronutrients, your health skyrockets and becomes much easier to reach and maintain a healthy weight. If this feels overwhelming, or maybe you're just in this spot and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be like this anymore. I just want to live my life and enjoy what I'm eating and be healthy. I would love to help you get there. My entire goal for coaching my clients is to help them get out of the diet mentality. I do this by meeting my clients where they're at right now and guiding them towards healthy eating with meal plans and the coaching. And I have all kinds of tips and tricks and shortcuts to make it as easy as possible for you. Changing the way that you eat is hard. It changes everything. Now, if you want to learn more about me and my approach to coaching, it's on my website, roadtolivinghole.com, and the link to that is in the show notes. I also strongly recommend downloading my free Get Started guide. That is a truly solid place to start. Like if you just implement that, you're going to be light years ahead of where you are now. And then another way we can connect for free is to join the Facebook community. In there, I go live while cooking, sharing like tips and tricks and tidbits. I give impromptu and scheduled workshops that are usually more food related. I share recipes, answer questions, and more. It's just a really great way to connect and for me to be able to walk alongside you and meet you where you're at right now. Again, just a quick recap. Food tracking can be beneficial, but it can also be detrimental. It's not an exact science. Most of them don't track our nutrient intake. It's easy to become obsessed and tie our value and self-worth to that number, and it can easily lead to disordered eating. But a healthy way to use food tracking is to find out your starting point. What are you eating right now, and make observations. And if your health isn't going the way that you want it to, you're losing weight, you're gaining weight, and you don't know what's going on, it's a great check-in tool just to kind of see what you're doing, and maybe there's some major deficiency you weren't recognizing that you're able to address, and it can help, navigate your health in a better way. And then if you're changing the way that you eat, to make sure that you're getting what you need and you're not under eating, which is really easy to do when we change our diet. And we can make observations and make adjustments as we see a trend in things. And we typically only use it for a few days, and it's not like a long-term part of healthy living. And if you need help, I would love to walk alongside you in that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this episode helpful, would you do me a favor and help others find it by leaving a review, sharing a screenshot on social media, or sharing the link with a friend? By you sharing what you've learned, others are able to find this podcast and join our community. Be sure to check out my website, www.roadtolivingwhole.com, for over 160 delicious recipes, a variety of meal plans, and a blog packed full of even more healthy living tips. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as your coach, you can schedule a free consult through www.roadtolivingwhole.com/health-coaching/. Until next time, friend. Bye.